face when they don't know how to respond. You notice it all, and almost without thinking, you change yourself a little. You soften your words. You make your feelings smaller. You say, it's okay, don't worry. It's not a big deal, even when it was a big deal to you. You do it so naturally now that people may not even realize how much effort it takes. They may think you are just easygoing, calm, understanding, flexible, but they don't always see how carefully you are holding yourself back. They don't always see how many words you choose not to say, how many feelings you fold quietly and place somewhere no one can see, how many times you put before asking for what you need because you don't want to be difficult. You don't want to make things uncomfortable. You don't want to be the reason the mood change. So you adjust again and again and again. A little less of what you want, a little less of what you feel, a little less of what you were going to say, until one day you realize you will become very good and disappearing gently, not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, in small ways, in familiar ways, in ways that almost look like kindness from the outside. And maybe it is kindness. Maybe you really do care. Maybe you really do want people to feel safe around you. Maybe you don't like conflict. Maybe you don't want to hurt anyone, but caring about others was never supposed to mean abandoning yourself. Being gentle was never supposed to mean becoming invisible. Being understanding was never supposed to mean that your feelings don't need to be understood too. So tonight I want to say this softly. You are allowed to take up space, not too much space, not selfish space, just your own space. The space where your feelings can exist without being apologized for. The space where your needs can be spoken without being treated like a problem. The space where your discomfort doesn't have to be hidden just to keep everyone else comfortable. You are allowed to say that didn't feel good. You are allowed to say I need a moment. You are allowed to say I don't think I can do that this time. You are allowed to put before saying yes. You are allowed to answer honestly instead of simple no can feel too sharp. A quiet truth can feel too happy. Choosing yourself can feel almost wrong when you are used to choosing peace first. But wanting to be considered doesn't make you selfish. Wanting your feelings to matter doesn't make you dramatic. Wanting someone to meet you halfway doesn't make you demanding. It means you are finally hearing the quiet part of yourself that has been waiting to be included. You don't have to become cold. You don't have to stop caring. You don't have to turn into someone harsh just to protect yourself. You can stay kind and still have limits. You can be soft and still say no. You can love people and still leave room to breathe. You can understand someone else without erasing yourself in the process, because you are raw in a relationship. It's not just to make things easier. You're not here only to observe discomfort. You're not here only to keep the peace. You're not here only to be the one who bends first. You are part of the relationship too. You are comfort matters too. Your timing matters too. Your silence means something too. Your tightness means something too. Your needs are not interruptions. Your feelings are not inconveniences. Your honest is not a burden. And if people are used to you always being edgy, they may need time to understand the parts of you that are honest. But that doesn't mean those parts are wrong. It doesn't mean you should hide them again. It doesn't mean you are only lovable when you are quiet. You are never meant to be loved only when you are easy to handle. You are never meant to be accepted only when you needed nothing. You are never meant to disappear so other people could feel comfortable. You can be present, fully present with your thoughts, with your limits, with your preferences, with your quiet no, with your honest yes, with your real feelings, and still be worthy of love. Maybe you start small, not with a big speech, not with changing everything at once, just a small pause before you answer, a small breath before you agree, where you ask yourself, what do I actually feel? What do I actually want? Am I saying yes because I mean it, or because I'm afraid not to? That question question matters, that pause matters, that tiny return to yourself matters, because every time you notice yourself before you disappear, something inside you begins to come back slowly, gently, without force. You don't have to fight to have a place. You don't have to shout to be real. You don't have to explain everything perfectly. For your feelings to be valid, you can simply again by not leaving yourself behind. And if your voice shakes, that's okay. If your heart races, that's okay. If you feel guilty at first, that's okay too. Guilty can appear when you stop playing a lure you are never meant to carry forever. It doesn't mean you are doing something wrong. It may just mean you are doing something unfamiliar, something new, something honest. You've spent so long making room for everyone else. Now, slowly, you can make room for yourself too. Not by taking love away from others, not by becoming careless, not by becoming someone you don't recognize, but by remembering that you belong in your own life. You belong in your own relationships. You belong in the conversation. You belong in the room. You belong in the space you keep trying to keep away. So, if you are tired of always adjusting, if there is quiet voice inside you that says, I want to matter here too, I hear it, and I want you to know that voice is not selfish. It is not cruel. It is not too much. It is the part of you asking to come home. The part of you that has been waiting to be treated with the same gentleness you give to everyone else. So tonight, you don't have to despair. You don't have to shrink your feelings until they are easy to accept. You don't have to turn every hurt into understanding before you let yourself feel it. You don't have to say yes just because it is expected. You don't have to make yourself smaller to keep everything peaceful. You can stay. You can exist. You can have a voice. You can have a boundary. You can have a need. You can have a feeling that does not immediately become someone else's comfort. And even then, you are still kind, still gentle, still worth it, still lovable. Not because you adjust perfectly, not because you ask for nothing, not because you are always edgy, but because you are you. And that has always been enough. So take a breath, a slow one, a gentle one, and let it remind you that you are allowed to come back to yourself little by little. and still be loved. I